Okay. Diane Goodman.
Before I start, Judge David Walker is in the parking lot and he wants to be added to public comment, so could you please add him to that? So, Mayor and Councilors, this is a continuation of my public comments from the May 24th, 2017 City Council meeting. I have the following questions. Why has the city redacted information in personnel files that should be public? This is in violation of IPRA. Why has the city not made available draft minutes for the 5/24 City Council meeting? This is a violation of IPRA and OMA. Why has the city not provided any evidence to support the city attorney's basis for his personal attacks on me? This is either a violation of IPRA or acknowledgement by the city that he had no basis for those attacks and has defamed me and tried to bully me into silence. Why has the city selectively excluded public records from the police department's complaint files? This appears to have been done to more than just my complaints. This is a violation of IPRA. Why does the city reprimand Officer Phelps, as Lieutenant Kent stated in CC 1610, when the fact is that Corporal Martinez violated the policies and procedures? Why has the city tampered with the videos of the 1031 incident? This is a violation of IPRA and should be investigated as a criminal violation. Why does the city require prepayment of $30 for each 911 call? This is a violation of IPRA. Why does the city hold closed-door meetings without providing appropriate specificity as to that closed-door meetings? This is a violation of OMA. In the spirit of open government and transparency, I request that my written public comments be added to the minutes of this meeting. I can help the city as I did with New Mexico Tax and Revenue. For example, I spoke with Will Duran, Director of New Mexico Tax and Revenue, and John Monfort, the Acting Cabinet Secretary, about issues at MVD. As a result of my concerns about their processes, they are reviewing all of their forms and implementing an efficient digital request system. I am a friend of the city and encourage you to work with me on addressing systemic issues and do what's in the best interest of the citizens. Your cooperation rather than resistance is in the best interest of Rio Rancho. I will use the remaining time in silence so you can contemplate my public comment and ask any questions you may have. Please reflect on the unity today that occurred as a result of today's tragedy. I am offering you another olive branch. Working together, we can make Rio Rancho better and do what's in the best interest of the citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson Cry. Mr. St. Clair? Okay, I'm assuming he left. Mark Braley? Braley? Mr. Braley? Brawley, I'm sorry.
My name is Mark Brawley. I'm a resident of the state of New Mexico. I'm also the leader of an ad hoc group whose name we go by as Have Constitution Will Travel. And it's come to my attention that as a government entity, Rio Rancho has fallen into a practice that is widespread in New Mexico, which is not following the Constitution or not following the Open Meetings Act and the Inspection of Public Records Act. I am a former Albuquerque police officer. And for a period of a number of years, I worked in the records division. And I learned just about all there is to know about the inspection of public records, because my job was to shag reports for citizens of police activity that they may need for personal reasons, insurance claims, and the like. And my understanding is that this body has chosen not to follow the Constitution of the United States or the Constitution of the state of New Mexico, which both begin with the words, "We the people." The constitutions are a grant to a government and imposes limitations. You work for the people and at the pleasure of the people. And when I hear that there are problems with people finding out what their government is doing by making requests for information from the government through the legal standards of the inspection of public records and at open meetings, it's very discouraging. You work for the people, not the other way around. And the people should not have to beg government to do what's right. It's my understanding that you have a problem with properly approaching closed meetings. I saw an agenda this past week that says that you were going to go into a closed meeting. But when I look at the agenda for today, I don't see anything that says you're going into a closed meeting. One of the requirements of the Open Meetings Act is that you go into a closed meeting where you're permitted to from an open meeting. And the exception that you use must have some specificity as to what you're going into, not simply mentioning the exemption that you're going to use.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, we have the 3-minute speaking rule, but I will say there was no closed meeting today. That's why there's not one on the agenda.
Was there an agenda? Was I mistaken about there
And I'm
being
not
an
going to
agenda?
get into a back and forth. This is a business meeting, but thank you very much.
I just want to know if I was mistaken. Did you publish an agenda or not?
This agenda that we have before us was published.
The question I have is, was there a closed meeting agenda published?
We had no closed meeting today, sir. So,
You're not listening to the question. You're trying to divert.
Sir,
I
thank you
saw-
very much.
I saw a motion, an agenda that came under your letterhead for a closed meeting. Did that get published or not?
there was no closed meeting today, sir.
You're still not listening.
I'm listening.
Was the document?
Sir, I'm sorry, your
done?
3 minutes is up. Thank you very much. Thank you. If you would like to direct a question to the clerk, we'll have you do that later, and we'll be more than happy to address that, but
Thanks.
we need to move on with the agenda.
That's fine.
Thank
You
you.
may see us again.
Thank
Let's
you.
Clean up your act.
Mr. Walker.
Thank you so very much. Let me first, I'm trying to be absolutely certain here that my cell phone is turned off.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Sometimes I think it is when it's not. My name is David Walker, and I'm actually here on the same subject matter that Mr. Brawley was. But I'm speaking to you, Mayor and Council, as a friend of the Mayor and Council. Truly, I am. I am also aware of the allegations about the handling of requests for public records and following the Open Meetings Act. And I just want to tell you that you need to get that right. The people in this room are entitled to be wrong about something. You guys aren't. You can't spend money, the public money that you want to, on purposes that are yours to make, and ignore the responsibilities you have under IPRA and the Open Meetings Act. And I do not want to see Rio Rancho fall into the pit that Albuquerque and the Albuquerque School Board have fallen into, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars litigating these issues and losing them, or settling the cases to keep from losing them. So my guess is, what I'm saying here is, please understand your responsibilities under the law. Please follow Mr. Lauer, is that right? Did I say that right? Mr. Lauer's advice is your city attorney. Because if the allegations that are made and have been made and the problems with IPRA are true, if those allegations are correct, that you're not doing that, and if you're still following Mr. Lauer's advice, then I would say that for your own sake and everybody, you should get his advice in writing if those allegations are true and he believes that you're in compliance with the law. So I'm here. I'm not an antagonist at this point. I just hate to see what has happened with the public school board, Albuquerque Public School Board, happen here, and I assure you it will happen if that law isn't followed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I should say.
Oh, yes, sir.
One of the things I should say, and I've forgotten to, you might say, where does he get his credentials to speak like this to us? And I do, from 30 years of practice of law and a term as a United States District Court magistrate judge. So I've seen both sides of these issues, and good luck,
Okay.
but do right.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right. Any comments by counselors?
Peter St. Cyr is on the list.
I called his name and he wasn't here when it responded.
I apologize, I'm late. May I?
Okay, yes, sir, please. And if we could also avoid outbursts from the gallery, please.
So I was not used to the traffic coming out to Rio Rancho. Thank you for taking the time to give me this last minute comment period. And so I hope that you had gotten a copy of the letter that New Mexico Foundation for Open Government sent yesterday. We've been kind of monitoring this situation for a long time and waiting to express our voice on the issue. And the problem here is that the law is black and white, and that records must be processed by records custodians for inspection without a fee. People have a right to know. This is the one law in state statute that legislators expressed their intention in writing. That's why we always have the winning hand. That's why the people have a right to know, because our lawmakers said in writing what their intention was to be allowed to access the inner workings of governmental affairs. It is a fundamental job duty of public servants to provide the public information. It's not burdensome, it's state law. The policy that's been here for 18 years is out of line. And I found out about the policy via the city's response to the Attorney General. And so we've had this discussion with the Attorney General, who will be weighing in with a determination letter. When citizens have a traffic accident, the Rio Rancho Police Department responds. It is an essential service. And we don't charge citizens to have traffic accident reports written. They may have to pay 35 cents a page when they come and pick it up, but we do not charge the police officers time to respond to a traffic accident. It is an essential government service. And I will tell you that FOG is here today to say, we are not going to allow a records tax to be applied for processing records for inspection anywhere here or around the state. It's something that is our top priority, and we see it as an essential government service. This is not about one individual. FOG is going to be here and around the state talking about a records tax being applied as illegal every single time. So you may get used to seeing me, unless you change the policy. And I would encourage you to change the policy, because the policy here does not trump the declared state policy of the state of New Mexico. And the state of New Mexico state statute says records custodians shall prepare records for inspection. They can circle around to the bottom of the legislature or the bottom of the statutes and say, well, it says right here that we can charge actual costs associated with copying. Labor cost is not a copying cost. Taxpayers pay these people's salaries, and we expect them to comply with the law. And, you know, this sounds a little harsh, and I don't mean to be out of line, but each one of you signed and swore an oath to uphold the law. This is the law. And you, as the governing body, need to direct staff to perform an essential job function. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's see here. So moving on to comments by councilors.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Everett.
for the record, I want to note that tonight, I'm not a fashion maven, but I'm making a statement with what I'm wearing. You'll notice this is sunshine yellow. Yellow for those of us who've been active in the open government movement for years, much longer than Mr. St. Cyr has been the head of FOG, know that yellow and sunshine are synonymous and symbolic of government being open and transparent. And I wear this tonight proudly as a representative of my city, because I believe a lot of what we've heard tonight simply doesn't ring true, is not the city I know, is not the governing body I've been a part of, is not the staff that serve the citizens of Rio Rancho. And even though I've been advised otherwise, I can't sit here and listen to this without responding. No one has been a more vocal critic of government secrecy and insider dealing than I have since moving to New Mexico 14 years ago. While serving as a city councilor, I've taken the initiative on several programs to improve government transparency and accountability. For example, the city of Rio Rancho, this governing body, last year unanimously passed an ethics ordinance for which we received a Government Ethics Leadership Award from Common Cause New Mexico, an organization I respect very much. This year, our ordinance helped guide Sandoval County commissioners in forming their own ethics legislation. We've also initiated a biannual citizen opinion survey and introduced an online system for residents and a cell phone app for residents to report what needs the attention of the city and its staff and its counselors. We're a progressive, open community. Now the third largest city in New Mexico, although we're not represented on the New Mexico FOG board. We're also building our own economy and identity after years as a bedroom community in the shadow of Albuquerque, and that's not an easy task. Most importantly, all of us, I assure you, have taken major steps to ensure that honest, open, responsible government prospers here. Also, we've been recognized by FOG for having the most transparent website in the state, if that carries any weight, but this isn't about that. Critics who allege that we're not open, that we're somehow conspiring to keep information from our citizens, simply don't know us, don't know who we are, haven't watched us govern this city. I encourage them to get to know us better, maybe even have a dialogue with our attorney and the rest of us who are responsible for providing honest, open government. The door here at Rio Rancho City Government is always open, and I encourage those who criticize us without having complete information to walk through our door and talk to us. Thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, thank you. We're going to move on to the consent calendar.